I tried beating Terraria as a mechanic. Anything from ground turrets, fully functioning UFOs, and even a nuke dropping warship is all available for us to create. So, will I be able to defeat Moonlord and beat Terraria? Well, let's find out. I started off by spawning into the world and opening up the treasure bag. I've actually noticed comments saying that, yo, I'm cheating with this treasure bag, but I think I slightly disagree with you because I hate the start of Terraria and it is by far the slowest and most boring part of the game. Drop a like if you agree with me, and if you don't, just like write a mean comment or something. I'll probably not read it. Anyways, this is also technically the engineer class, but I already made a video called the engineer class. But I find this mod to be so much better version of an engineer class and what I probably would have wanted from an overall engineer class. There is turrets, there are like airplanes, there's a bunch of crazy stuff you can place on the ground. This mod is amazing. Let's just get on to this. I started chopping down some trees and I made my very first turret, which was this like little flying wooden thing, and I couldn't really control it at all. Also, at the top right of the screen, we had an energy bar, and there are 4 things under the energy bar, which is how much total energy we have. There's how much energy we are producing at the moment, which is the energy benefits. We have the shooting speed of the turrets, which is how fast they shoot, and the drones and turrets that I can actually activate at this given time. So during this time, I was only able to craft the wooden wrench, which summoned in this very weak wooden turret, and I wasn't able to shoot it because I actually needed a certain controller for it, which I'd only come to find later. So for now, I continue to chop down trees, make some NPC houses, and start digging out a mini elevator. I need to get more resources in order to craft, well, frankly, more weapons, and I want to get myself more ore so I can craft more powerful armor and the actual controller for the turret. As I came to the surface, we actually got a blood moon, which was just a total pain in the ass. As well, blood moons when you just started the game are absolutely brutal as there's so many zombies, and you know, my best weapon being a gold pickaxe doesn't set me up for success quite here. I died countless times, and during this time I was actually able to craft myself with all the ores that I had gathered a engineer marker, which allows me to fire using the drones, and also a tack shooter blueprint, which essentially just builds a tack shooter and shoots a bunch of nails at enemies. And this was the weapon that I used to take out, well, all of these mobs because the turret just wasn't too effective. And then soon after this, I went back to mining. Picked up some demonite, picked up some life crystals along the way, got a bunch of gold, all of these other good resources. And once I came back to the surface, I actually went to go and craft myself a brand new marker called the shadow marker that I would essentially use to like near the end of the game. This can also let us control the turrets, but it lets us actually gain 1 more energy per second while shooting turrets, which energy per second you will come to soon find out is probably the most important thing within this mod, because if your energy runs out, all of the turrets just go away. And this is what I soon very quickly discovered when I crafted myself some gold drones, put them up, and used up all of my energy accidentally, as my energy benefits were at -3. Anyways, after this I went over to the left side of the world and cleared a desert pyramid, went past the jungle, went to the ocean, and then came back to spawn after looting the entire world basically. Then I built myself more NPC houses and checked out what starting armor I could actually craft in this engineer class. The next best armor set that we could actually craft is something that requires a goblin invasion, so we're gonna have to put off engineer armor for later. So then I went mining in order to try and find myself the summon for the Eye of Cthulhu, and being unlucky, I decided I should probably just go ahead and fight the Eater of Worlds first. But before that, I did check my boss checklist and realized that there was a boss that was before the Eater of Worlds called the Gardener, which was a very ominous, suspiciously close to Plantera looking boss. I then went to explore the right side of the world, and upon finding absolutely nothing, I came back to spawn. I went to mine a little bit more ores, get more resources, search more chests. I got myself up to full HP, and I also browsed all of the accessories that I can make for this class. I can make like this cool pair of goggles that would give me energy, I think it was, or it might have recovered me energy actually faster. So that was on the list. And then I went over to the jungle in order to try and get myself stingers so I can craft myself one of the turrets made out of stingers. After battling it out with all the enemies in the jungle, I decided to go a little bit deeper, mine for more resources. Hopefully I could find myself the summon for the Eye of Cthulhu. And upon opening a chest, the world of Terraria decided to do a little bit of trolling on me, and I absolutely blew up and had like 70 boulders fall on me. Anyways, since that wasn't too good, I decided to go back to mining, but I still had not managed to find it. And there was at this point that I actually went AFK for a little bit, and I paused the game only to come back to the game having the Eye of Cthulhu spawn on me. I did not manage to die somehow. It was absolute just like lucky timing. I swear to God, I did not summon it in. Sometimes Terraria just actually does like me, and using this opportunity with my golden drone, and we did manage to take it out, which was just complete luck. Believe me if you want. You could also think I'm just an absolute cheater that that just cheats all of my gameplay videos, but you know, that's on you, bro. After defeating the Eye of Cthulhu, the next enemy on the list was the Gardener or the Eater of Worlds. I couldn't yet decide which one I wanted to do, so I went back to mining, and this is where I discovered a ore called lithium, which is gonna come in useful for making batteries, and batteries come in use literally all the way to the end of the game to craft like brand new turrets. So I had to stack up on lithium, which is exactly what I did, and then I went to go fight the Eater of Worlds. I broke a couple of the orbs, made myself a mini arena, and then broke the final orb to summon him in, and then I just spammed him with my drone. This was a pretty easy boss fight. It just took a really long time because the Eater of Worlds is just very annoying and he runs away from you a lot, and you know, having a very underpowered ranged weapon as your weapon of choice to defeat the Eater of Worlds was not the greatest thing to use. Anyways, once I came back to spawn, I crafted myself the Nightmare Pickaxe, and I also checked out how to craft a brand new boss summon for the Glaciation, which was like a worm boss that you could summon in the tundra. We're not gonna fight it yet. We still have a couple of other bosses to fight, so let's get on to that right now. The very first boss we actually had to fight was the Blight King, which is something that you can summon during the night, and that's exactly what I went on to doing. It looked like the mech bosses, you know, like the really far ones right before Supreme Calamitas within Calamity. It looked like the Skeletron Prime version of that. I forget what it's called. It's like XF70426. It's something like that, okay? I don't know. Anyways, this guy was a breeze to take out. I think he was like pre-Eye of Cthulhu as well, but he did actually drop like a little sentry for us that wasn't too good, but we did need it for the Molten Sentry to then craft like the Terra Blade version of the sentry. So, you know, we didn't beat the boss for no reason, but the sentry he gave us was absolute garbage. After I defeated that boss, I went over to the left side of the world and I actually picked up some meteorite, and then I crafted myself the Meteorite Wrench, which summoned in a whole different set of flying little drones. And then I was ready to take on the Gardener, which is this Plantera looking boss that I don't really seem to be too keen on fighting, because anything Plantera related is probably going to be a pain in the ass. Anyways, this is also where I discovered that you can craft a wind turbine, which essentially it gives you +1 energy per second at the surface and +2 energy at the beach, in the sky, in the sandstorm, and during windy days. So this is going to be a theme that you're going to see along with in this video. There's actually various different little like these crafting contraptions that you can make that give you more energy per second, and the more energy per second you have, the more turrets you can have at once. So this is like the one thing that you want to have, and one sad thing is you can't duplicate them, so that kind of sucks, but hey, you win some, you lose some. I crafted myself the wind turbine because it's literally the greatest thing in all of this mod. And then I went mining for some hellstone. I picked up as much hellstone as I could. I crafted myself a molten pickaxe, a full set of molten armor. I then went to defeat even more mobs within the jungle to craft myself the little jungle turret. And then as I went back to the jungle, I crafted myself the summon for the Gardener, and I summoned that big boy in. It was like a little Plantera, but just retextured to be blue, and also had these like miniature spinning Planteras around it. I mean, the boss fight wasn't too difficult. It did shoot up these like vines from the ground, which I had to avoid, and it was kind of difficult without a second platform because, you know, sometimes they would reach you, but hey, we took out the boss. We got an NPC to spawn from it that I'm pretty sure just sold plants after this, and we also got a brand new turret. I then also need to go and defeat the Queen Bee for a certain turret, but I'm gonna leave that one for later as I want to go and take out Skeletron Prime first, as I think that's probably the next logical boss. I made a little arena near Skeletron's dungeon, waited for it to turn to nighttime, and using my meteorite turret, I decided to go and take on Skeletron. Skeletron flew by pretty quickly, no pun intended, and then I went to go pick up all of the water candles within the dungeon. As always, I want to craft myself the battle cry, so I need myself the candles. By the way, if you don't know what the battle cry is, it's from a quality of life mod that increases the spawn percentage of enemies, so you don't have to grind as much. I highly recommend it. It's from Fargo's Mutant mod. It also use Louis AFK. They're both pretty good. Anyways, after this, I went down into the underworld and tried to figure out how this geothermal reactor that I just had crafted actually worked. Essentially, this was just another type of turbine which let us regenerate more energy per second, but only if we are in the underworld. So this is going to come in handy when fighting the wall of flesh, but also it's a bit of a pain because I either need to craft like 10 of them or I can't use them at all, as if you run too far away from it, it just does not regenerate any of your energy. But yeah, using my little jungle turret, I went into the ice biome, mining for specific resources so I could be able to craft the summon for the ice wormy boss. During this time, we actually got invaded by goblins, which was nice as we could finally craft ourselves the pair of engineer armor. And using my little jungle turret, I spammed as many goblins as I could. This goblin armor was actually like super buffed, so I don't know why it was like it, but it was actually very difficult. But yeah, I ended up going through it. I did nearly die, maybe like once or twice, but we did get a bunch of the resources that we needed, and even though we got a bunch, it was still not enough, so we're probably gonna have to redo the goblin invasion, which I was not ready for. I crafted myself the helmet for the very starter engineer class, which was of course by far worse than the molten armor, but it did give us more energy per second, so that was literally like the most important thing in the game. And after this, I crafted myself the summon for that ice wormy boss, and I went over to the ice biome, summoned in my jungle turret, put down a wind turbine, got my little meteorite turret going, and then just spammed the glaciation non-stop. He had a couple of phases, he shot out a couple of probes. He was actually very similar to the destroyer, except he did shoot projectiles from the sky, and then he did chase you more near towards the end of the boss fight, which was kind of interesting. But yeah, we took him out countless times. Then I was able to craft myself a whole new set of armor, which was actually far better than the armor that we could have crafted from the goblin invasion, so I just went for a full set of this one, as it made no sense to craft the goblin armor. And yeah, we're now getting very close to the wall of flesh. I then also crafted myself a solar panel, which then actually gave us more energy per second during the daytime, and then I fought the glaciation even more. We took this boss out countless times. I then went to go take out the queen bee. I went farming within the dungeon for keys so I can get myself this little Muramasa version of the turrets, and then I crafted the summon for the very last boss that we had to go fight before the wall of flesh, called the Hand of Cthulhu. I summoned in my two little glaciation probes as my little drone engineer turret slaves, and we got onto fighting the Hand of Cthulhu. You can only summon this boss near the ocean. I had to make sure it was actually daytime, so I was able to pick up a little bit more energy per second with the solar panels active, as during nighttime they don't work, and using the probes was probably the best idea, as they were the most powerful weapon that I had in my arsenal thus far. But yeah, I buffed up, just like started spamming the Hand of Cthulhu, and it wasn't too difficult initially, but he did have many different phases that I just like could not read at the very start of the boss fight. But yeah, we got through him, and I picked up all of the items that he dropped. He dropped this like weird sponge looking ore, and he dropped a couple of weapons as well, and this sponge looking ore is actually what we need to craft the next best armor before the wall of flesh. So I got onto crafting that armor set, and then I fought the boss even more. Once I had a full set of that armor, I went to check all of the accessories that I can craft, all of the different weapons that I can craft, and upon fighting the boss even more, I got all the resources to craft myself the molten wrench, which summoned in basically this little molten turret that kind of looked like the Stardust Guardian. It was basically my own personal fire stand, and upon coming down to the underworld and getting myself a guide voodoo doll, I chucked it into the lava and started using my molten stand to spam the wall of flesh. This dealt pretty decent damage, and we managed to take out the wall of flesh in no time, putting us into hard mode. I then made myself the altar extractinator, broke all of the altars at once, and defeated all of the annoying wraiths that come after you once you break the altars. We blessed our world with all of the ores, and then I went to town on mining so I can get myself all the anvils and all the various different pickaxes. I got myself the palladium pickaxe first, then got myself the orichalcum pickaxe and anvil, and then I checked all the different wrenches that I can craft. It only made sense to craft the titanium wrench, so of course that's what I was going for, and once I crafted myself the titanium forge, I was on my way to go and try to craft the titanium wrench. During this time, I also actually crafted a whole different wrench, which was kind of the upgraded version of the demonite wrench, called the cursed wrench, which essentially just inflicted enemies with the cursed debuff. And alongside this, I also went mining a little bit longer to get myself the titanium wrench, but first I killed some wyverns in the sky so I can get myself a pair of harpy wings, and then upon getting the summon for the destroyer, I went over to the edge of the world where my solar panels were, specifically the turbines, because the solar panels just do not work at night. I summoned in the destroyer and tried to take him on. To no one's surprise, I got absolutely obliterated, and well, I died. Yeah, I was just severely underpowered, and then I decided to go and try to fight Skeletron. Skeletron Prime was extremely easy because, well, my drones couldn't actually pierce the enemies, and the destroyer needs like very good piercing weapons, so I decided to just take out Skeletron. You know, it just made the most sense, and yeah, we did that. It was very easy. And then after I defeated Skeletron, I crafted myself this hallowed wrench and also the titanium wrench, which I could use to like ram into mobs and deal tons of damage as almost as if it were a melee weapon. So I tried to use this on the destroyer, but unsuccessfully I managed to die, and then I had to kind of re-strategize. I finally decided that I needed to get myself some new accessories, but before that, me being me, I just decided to go into the hallowed biome, get some souls of light, craft a summon for the twins, go back to the ocean, buff up, and well, I tried to fight the twins and I did manage to take them out, so that was pretty neat. Soon after this, I went to go fight the destroyer, and we also managed to take out the destroyer, which was just absolute luck. I don't know how, as I did not change absolutely anything from the past time that I played and tried to fight them. Anyways, now the jungle grows restless, meaning we can go and get chlorophyte. Soon after this, I went mining for palladium because I realized that the Neo Palladium armor set is actually far better than the Hallowed armor set for the engineer class. So I just mined up some palladium and crafted myself a full set of Neo Palladium armor. armor. Then I went to go browse the accessories once more because now I was actually ready to craft them. I then crafted myself the pickaxe axe and then went on the hunt for all the resources to craft myself a bunch of good accessories for the engineer class. I also went in the jungle because that's where, well, I needed almost everything because I need chlorophyte for the new accessories that I needed to craft, and I could also use this time to find Plantera's bulb if I get lucky. That's a big if. So I got myself a spelunker potion, got myself a mining potion, and went to town on finding some chlorophyte. Once I had a bunch of chlorophyte, it came back to spawn, and then I crafted myself a chlorophyte wrench. After this, I went over to the ocean, and since it was nighttime, I went to go fight the boss that you're actually supposed to fight right before the twins, I'm pretty sure it was, called the Cursed Preacher, which was like this weird, at first I thought he was wielding a guitar, which is like this weird guitar wielding enemy that you can only also fight near the ocean. So I tried to completely obliterate this boss, and it was slightly difficult because it was just a little bit bullet hellish, you know, just a little bit too much for me because I'm horrific at Terraria. Just kidding, watch my Inferno mode playthrough. I am single-handedly a god at this game. Anyways, jokes aside, we took out this boss. He wasn't too difficult, and he ended up giving us like this brand new soul that we could use to craft new weapons. And after I finished all my shenanigans at spawn, I went back to fighting the glaciation. I don't know how you say it. You could tell me down below. I'm not really sure. We defeated this boss a bunch more times because I needed a specific accessory from him so I can craft myself better accessories, right? It was like this little combo of accessories I needed to craft, but I just could not get the thing to drop. Then I also needed another drop from the goblin invasion, so I had to do the goblin invasion a bunch more times. And then I also went to keep on fighting the Cursed Preacher as I needed a drop from him, which took me quite a while to get. And then I had to go fight the mech bosses a bunch more times because I needed money to buy all of the other things that I had in mind. Anyways, at this point, I went to go make an arena for Plantera. I blew up a giant place, made myself put up some platforms, and once I buffed up, I just went to fight Plantera. I used the titanium turrets just because they were so powerful. I could just literally spam them from early hard mode all the way to I think nearly golem. I used them because they were just very powerful. One nice thing about this mod is like, even if you have a relatively underpowered turret, but it doesn't take a lot of energy, you can just re-spam it. You can just summon in like a bunch of them. So you can get very creative. You don't even have to use one turret. You can like mix and match turrets to make the most OP class. My challenge for you right now is go into this mod and figure out the best turret combination that you can make. If you could drop down in the comments below, I'd love to check it out because like this mod is so cool, and I just didn't have like all the time to fully scour it as I needed to post videos quicker. So if you could help me with that, bro, I'd love you forever. Anyways, I went over to Skeletron's dungeon and I tried to get myself a bunch of ectoplasm, but that didn't go too well. I kept on dying, so I just decided to buy it later instead. I fought some mechanical bosses like Skeletron to get myself more money, fought the destroyer a little bit, mined up even more chlorophyte, and this is where I went to go craft a full set of steampunk armor using the chlorophyte and some gold. It's actually a little bit hard to find chlorophyte because, well, I just like recently started the game. You need to give it a bunch more time to grow. At this point, I also got myself the steampunk turret, which shot these like very powerful arrows, but it was very slow and it consumed a lot of energy. So, you know, just using the titanium guy was so much better than that. I kept on fighting mechanical bosses so I can get myself more money, so I can buy ectoplasm. And then I made a summon for the Eater of Worlds, which was just like my way to grind money up until I crafted myself a full set of steampunk armor. I then went to Golem's Temp, placed down 2 of my best reactors, giving me a bunch of energy, and using the same titanium turrets, I obliterated Golem. This was actually quite hard. I almost died, and luckily I got the pixel on my very first try, so I could bring it all the way back to spawn and I never had to fight Golem there ever again in like the hardest environment to defeat Golem. Then I made myself these goggle accessories which I could equip, and they essentially just give me more energy benefits. I crafted another like this little destroyer necklace thing that was also good, and then I crafted that into like an Avenger emblem necklace, which was called the Master Engineer emblem. It just gave me more max energy and energy per second. And then I made myself a little above ground mushroom biome because we're going to need shroomite for the next set of armor. I then waited for the shroomite biome to grow, and I summoned a solar eclipse. I defeated a bunch of Mothrons, got myself some broken hero swords, then went to go fight the twins and all the other mechanical bosses underground using my better reactors so I can get more energy and just defeat the bosses faster. This was just my way to farm out money. And also, once the shroomite biome fully grew, I made a little house, got the truffle to move in, and then I kept on trying to defeat the Cursed Preacher as I still needed a certain item from him. I decided I'll go without it up until I actually need to go and fight the moonlord, so I just went to go fight the lunatic cultist. And once again, using the titanium turret, I took out the lunatic cultist quite easily. I also did this near the ocean just so I could have more energy, but this is where basically this weapon becomes inferior to the weapons that come after this, because all the weapons that come after this point in the game are absolutely crazy. This is where it gets pretty hectic and you're getting like weird spaceships and like UFOs. This is the part of the game where I was super interested. It's actually where I took a massive break also, and I completely forgot forgot about this mod. But anyways, I had to go do the Martian Madness event for a new set of armor, which we're going to actually combine with Shroomite to make the armor set. I had to take out a bunch of Martian saucer turrets, all the little Martian enemies, and once that was done, I went on to craft myself a full set of the Martian armor. This also gave me access to the UFO weapon that I was talking about. Essentially, we literally just summoned in a UFO drone that follows us around and shoots extremely quickly, killing anything that gets in the way. This is very good, and I used this and the titanium turret to take out the Stardust pillar first. Then I went back to the ocean to defeat the cursed preacher a little bit more, finally getting all the resources that I need to craft myself that accessory. It essentially just looks like a little cross, and what it does is it inflicts all types of fire on a certain attack, making it pretty powerful for boss fights and especially enemies that you want to clear out of the way. So I got all the best accessories I can really get. All I had to do was just reforge them to warding, as this class just doesn't really have a lot of defense. I then also went to go make the lightning boots, and then I went back for the pillars. I went to go take out the vortex pillar next, which was a huge pain. Then I went to go fight the king slime a bunch more times, get a little bit more money, get a little bit more gel. The gel was primarily what I needed. I then got myself more ectoplasm. Using the gel, I built myself a bunch of asphalt roads, built a massive road halfway across the world, went to go take out the solar pillar, and left the nebula pillar for last, as I still needed to do a couple more things before we were actually going to fight Moonlord. I went to go get more money by spamming the twins. I got myself a pair of beetle wings, and then I went to go reforge every single accessory to warding. This just cost way too much money, so I decided to just kind of go with what I got, and for all the accessories that costed a bunch more money, like the celestial shell to reforge, I wouldn't reforge it anymore, even if I got like something like guarding, so you know, I don't have to spend like 20 platinum to get warding. I spammed the Eater of Worlds over and over again just so I can get myself more money. Once I had a bunch of money, I bought tons and tons of potions, and then I placed a couple of turbines, and basically every single like reactor that I had up at the very top of the world. I also found a brand new ore within the underground, which was green while I was mining for lithium, and this ore was called Centaurium. This is basically like the Auric Tesla ore, if you ever played Calamity, for the end game of this mod. It let us craft the Centaurium turret, which was very overpowered, and then I went to go take out the nebula pillar once I had basically everything pre-Moonlord. I also crafted myself the Centaurium marker, which let the Centaurium turret do a little bit more damage, and once the nebula pillar was fully taken out, I buffed up, came back to spawn, and well went to go fight Moonlord. He was dealing far more damage to me than I thought he would, which was a big problem because, well, he started killing all of my NPCs, such as the nurse. I couldn't cheese him with the nurse anymore. My buffs were halfway running out, and the best that I could do is take out both of his hands, and before I could take out his eyeball and or even his core, I actually managed to die, meaning that I needed to re-strategize, and my version of re-strategize was build a platform that's even longer than previously, which is exactly what I went on to do, and resummon the Moonlord. So, well, that's what I did, and I spent the entire time running away from him. I am not kidding, I was running away from him the entire time, and this took forever. This is probably one of the longest boss fights I've ever done in Terraria, but we finally took out the Moonlord, and well, we are nearly done this class, but I want to show you a couple more weapons and what the full set of armor actually does. So as soon as I took out the Moonlord, I got a brand new weapon called the Centaurium remote, which essentially summoned in this huge airplane, and if we click it again, it actually drops a freaking nuke, which does tons of damage. So you could check this out for yourself. It's absolutely hectic. I then went to go fight more Eater of Worlds so I can get more money, buy more potions, you know, all of that, so I can fight the Moonlord more, get more Illuminite, and craft a full set of armor. I basically wanted to fight Moonlord another time once I got a bunch more money and all my other NPCs moved in. But yeah, we summoned this guy in. We took him out again using the Centaurium remote and also the little turrets. The actual little turrets are probably better than the big ship. The big ship is good for bosses that you don't need to like run too far away from, but you know, we have to spam with the little turrets. That's what we did. We took him out. I crafted myself a full set of the armor, and I went to go fight Moonlord one more time. Frankly, I wasn't too impressed. It wasn't doing too much damage. Like the end game still couldn't even destroy Moonlord, but you know, it did provide us with a bunch of defense, did make us do a lot of damage. So, you know, it was still pretty neat. I have to give credit where credit is due. It was very fun to play with this. I then got another turret that was actually ground based once I defeated Moonlord that looked pretty cool, which was basically this pillar that just stood out of the ground that was green. But you know, it probably wouldn't do too much damage. I still like the plane that drops the nuke more. That's probably like the most fun thing I've experienced in this mod. So yeah, anyways, this mod was absolutely great. If you enjoyed this video, drop a like. If you didn't, you know, drop a dislike. All your feedback is greatly appreciated. Consider subscribing to the channel if you're new, bro. Join our community. We'd love to have you here. Anyways, this has been Boio. Peace out.